The absolute very first thing I have to do is flip my books around. I did this to see if it would motivate me to read more books, because I flipped the books that I have read, so all the books facing out are the ones I haven't. But the only thing this has made me feel is sad, because I miss my rainbow, and then I just can't remember what books I have because I can't see the colors, and it just screams disorganized. So we're flipping books around, and then we're gonna get to unhauling some. The colors are so pretty already. But actually I've decided I think I'm gonna take off all the books on my shelf. I just might as well go 100% for this unhaul. That I'm like, why am I holding on to you? You know, I want to value my space, my comfort, my peace of mind. So I think I am going to just leave my absolute favorites on the shelf and take everything else down and see what stays. Okay, here's an update on the shelves. I have done a mass clearing, and there are a lot of unread books here. So what I think I'm going to try and do is put like my top favorite series on these two shelves, and also take my unread books off the shelves so that way I can really analyze them, because there's a couple unread things here, but there's also some favorites, like, obviously. So yeah, we'll do that, and here is what the unhaul pile is looking like. It's looking literally crazy. I'm going to try my best not to be a hoarder anymore and get to learn my reading taste better and just read for myself. That's the goal now, not read for nobody else. I thought this part would be fun, just in case you don't know what my favorite books are on my shelves. Now I get to tell you and rave about all my favorite books. So I'm gonna have book series, probably like YA contemporary, adult fiction. So I'm gonna have sections. We'll get into it. I'm gonna start with YA series because I feel like that will definitely show you a lot of my favorite books. Let's do it. Okay, I think my number one has to be Red Queen. It's the book that got me into reading. I've reread the series at least all the way through 2 or 3 times, and I've read the first one like 5 times. I'm a big fan girl. I've never had them all together like that, and they're so pretty. Sure. Okay, next I think I'm going to grab The Black Witch Chronicles, which is a recent fave. Love it to death. YA, fantasy, you know the spiel. Me realizing I literally forgot a book in the series. Oopsie daisies. Fun fact, when I thought the series was ending, I thought it was ending with King's Cage, and I remember crying so hard. And then I looked on Twitter and realized I'm silly, so fun memory. Ooh, this shelf is looking very sexy. Okay, next I think I will do the Last Magician series, which you may know, also a favorite. YA, fantasy, magic, New York, time travel. The 4th one is coming out very soon, so very excited. I think next is gonna be Strange Dreamer. The funny part about these two is like my sizes for either book are ridiculously different. I think I have a US copy and a UK copy or something. So I kind of like when they're not together because this just looks funny to me. Another favorite duology, Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. If you love the Divergent series, highly recommend checking out this, because I honestly think this is way better. Okay, next I think, oh, it's getting hard. Okay, I have Raybearer and Redempture, even though I have not finished Redempture because I'm an evil person. Literally, bookmark is still in there. I will at some point have fun rereading all of this, but I loved the first one. Just looking at this shelf makes me so happy. Like, this is what I want my bookshelf to look like. Just like my things. They're so beautiful. A series that I really enjoyed, but have not finished. I still need to read the 3rd. Oh, she dusty. the third and fourth book, but I have read the novella, the first and second, and it's so dark and twisted, and it's about sisters, and my sister and I were reading it, and it was very fun. So this is Three Dark Crowns by Ken Dark-Lake. Definitely gonna keep this. Don't know if it's an absolute favorite just because I haven't finished the series yet, but I remember enjoying it so much. It was during my Red Queen era when I needed sustenance during Red Queen. Waiting for the next book is so hard. Another YA series that I really love is the DC Icon books. I only love the first three. They came out with two more. Those aren't my favorite. This is, I have Wonder Woman Warbreaker by Leigh Bardugo. Sarah J Maas wrote Catwoman, Soul Stealer, and Mary Lou wrote Batman Nightwalker. So these are just kind of like more diverse contemporary takes on these classic DC superheroes, and I'm a huge nerd for DC, especially DC animation, not movies. Oh, these just bring such fond memories. So there are going to be books that I keep that are 5 stars because I love them to death, me referring to the Black Witch Chronicles and The Last Magician. But then there's, I feel like, those books that you keep because they bring such fond memories, and I'm just trying to balance out how many am I keeping for memories or not. So definitely keeping on to these, and I do want to reread them because I feel like I would still enjoy them today. Literally one of my favorite series, but again, have not finished it. I still need to read the last one, but it is definitely up there. I think just slightly behind the Black Witch Chronicles because I really like the Black Witch Chronicles, and I really like The Last Magician. So this would probably be just right after Strange the Dreamer, probably, in the ranking of things. Let's talk about a series I don't know if I actually want to keep or not, because I bought it because of the hype, and I don't know if I should keep it or not. The Cruel Prince series. I did really enjoy Jude and everything that was happening throughout the series. I just don't know if it's a favorite. I don't know if I'd keep it on my shelves. They'll just sit on my shelves collecting dust, you know what I mean? I really want to make sure I utilize my shelf for like space that I love, books that I love, and then if I'm not enjoying this, why not rehome this to someone who will really enjoy it and like cherish it the same way I cherish these, if that makes sense. Like, that's why I kind of want to have this shelf up, is like, are you as good as the Black Witch Chronicles? Immediately my gut's saying no, so I feel like I'm going to unhaul them. All the books I unhaul are going to be available on my Pango Books account, and there is going to be a huge sale. I know I'm getting rid of a lot of series, the Darker Shade of Magic series, the Ash Princess series. There's a couple in there. So I have the Gilded Ones, and I recently actually purchased the Merciless Ones. I love this book. It is, I don't want to compare it to Redemption or Raybearer because they are both fantasies that are, you know, of African diaspora, so I don't feel like it's always super fair to compare them. But if you liked Redemption, Raybearer, which I feel like they have a great feminist undertone, this one also has a great feminist undertone and a magic system that people fear, and then they manipulate young women into this kind of religious system. So it almost is kind of also like the Black Witch Chronicles. It gives off that vibe. I feel like I'm also very much telling you my type of books that I like, which may be helpful to you to determine whether or not you'll like the books that I read or not, and then it'll help with book recommendations. So the Gilded Ones, the Merciless Ones is the next one. It's on my desk. I need to keep it separate or else I will forget to put it in my book haul, which is my next video. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I think next would be War Girls by Tochi Yamabochi, which I do love. I only have read the first one and I annotated a little bit. I got the arc, and then I got the second one, but I haven't read it yet. I have a nostalgic series that I don't know if I should keep. It's the Divergent series. I feel like my heart is saying yes because it is also one of those books that okay, I'm smiling. I'm gonna keep it for sure. Okay. And I know I'm in the minority, but I actually love the book endings. I'm in love. Look at this full shelf of just stunning, beautiful books. Wow. Wow. Okay, I just cleared off this shelf. Let's see if my standalones will fit on these shelves. Still doing YA fantasy, by the way. Okay, we have Margaret Rogerson, which I really enjoy. You nearly forgot the Akata Witch trilogy, which I have read the first two. I really enjoyed the second one. The first one was an okay kind of middle grade. So I'm really looking forward to the last one. I think it's gonna sway it towards me absolutely loving the series or just it being like an okay fantasy series. Oh my god, I forgot another series. I am so silly. Okay, this one you could probably judge me a little bit for it because I read and loved The Shadow Queen by CJ Redwine. And what did I do? I purchased the next 3 books in the series. They're companion novels, so it's not really a series, or it's not really a quartet, but it kind of is because all the characters are connected in the world. But it still follows different characters and plots for each book. But you can judge me because I read the first one, enjoyed it, and what did I do? I bought the whole series. Have I read any of them? No. The last YA series that I neglected. Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, which I picked up because I love Strange the Dreamer. I very much loved the first and the second book. The third book I have not finished. I still have the bookmark in it. I'm on page 320. Wow, what a page to abandon a book on. There's a third perspective that we're getting, or a second perspective that we're getting from a girl that I really don't care about. So we'll see. That I feel like this last book is going to make or break this series. Ooh, have fun Once Upon a Time books. If you love the show Once Upon a Time, they created books. I've read Red's Untold Tale, which is all about, you know, Red Riding Hood, how she found out that she, you know, was a werewolf. If you don't know, you know. In The Night of Regina Rising, her story. I actually haven't read that, and I think there's 2 other books in the series which I might just collect because I do absolutely love Once Upon a Time. It is my comfort show. I have this fun series. I haven't actually finished the trilogy, but it is A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm actually gonna put this in the maybe pile. I have Children of Blood and Bone, which is not a standalone, but I got rid of the second book because I didn't enjoy it as much as the first. So I kind of treat it like it's standalone, even though there's going to be a third book coming out. And I'm probably going to just borrow the third book from the library. I just very much enjoyed the first book, so keeping her there. I guess, okay, for some unread that I'm excited to read, YA fantasy, I have Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I'm very, 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 very excited for this. I started reading this and actually was like pleasantly surprised. I think that's it for YA series. That makes 3 shelves for YA fantasy, which I think makes sense for my reading taste. I have a lot of YA series that I really love, like, oh, this makes me so happy. Now let's dive into adult fantasy series, fantasy retellings and all of that. Definitely also going to be a large chunk. I found some YA fantasy that I forgot to mention. Oh, don't break. I have Daughters of Jubilation. I'm also very excited for that. The Cost of Knowing by, what was her name? Brittany Morris, which is contemporary with speculative fiction. And I have some YA sci-fi, Upper World, and Goliath by Tochi Yamaguchi. I think that's all the YA fantasy I would have. Okay. Moving on to adult book, adult fantasy and sci-fi. I have a lot of sci-fis because I've been really getting into sci-fi as of late. I cleared off one more shelf. Let's see, the creme de la creme of adult fantasy that I have on my shelves. But again, I'm comparing all my books to these. This specific shelf really gets me going. Like these are 4 stars that I have good feelings towards, but these are the books I grab in a fire. So I'm comparing everything that I put up here to these books because these are the kind of the books that I want on my shelves. I don't want to collect books just to collect them. I don't think I want a library, honestly. And this is, again, for me personally. Make sure you know what you personally want before starting an unhaul. So I think next, or like top adult fantasy I would put is Crescent City. Very much enjoyed that series. So much so I bought the second one. But have I read it? No. So again, you guys are just realizing I just buy books and never freaking finish them. It's a terrible habit I have. Oh no, I did forget some YA fantasy standalones. I put them aside because I love them so much. But Heartless by Marissa Meyer, a great evil queen retelling, and Girls Made of Snow and Glass, which is like a queer retelling of, is it the evil? So Queen of Hearts and the Evil Queen. How do you keep these fairy tales straight? I have no idea. I also have The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, I think is the name. It's like so highly annotated. I very much enjoyed this journey this book took me on, but I will say I did end up giving it a 4 star just because the ending. I don't like it when people don't give a conclusive ending, when it's more aloof and could be anything. I know some people love open endings, so I'll be nice. And then I have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which is her newest adult series. I really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to Hellbent, which is the next one. See, there's so many series out there that I love. Too many to keep track of, guys. I don't know how we're supposed to do it. Okay, I have some books by Naomi Novak. I have read Uprooted and really enjoyed it, and I have Spinning Silver, which I'm hoping to read soon. Very excited. I also have Priority of the Orange Tree, which is a massive book. I did such a long video about this, and I'm excited for the next book because I think the story was really captivating and fun to read. So it's just a very fun journey. I don't think it's a 5 star I love you. It's more like a 4 star fun feelings, fun vibes, which I'll keep. I'll hold on to for now. Dun dun dun. An adult sci-fi series that I really enjoyed. I say like I've read this series. I read Red Rising. I got this book in a free library little box, those little things that you can get books from. I put some books in there, grabbed this one, got it for free, and immediately bought the next 2 in this series. Have I read them? No. We love sci-fi. I have another trilogy that I bought all in one go, have not finished, but I thoroughly enjoyed the first one, Foundation, and then I was trying to reread it to continue on with the trilogy, and I just stopped at 200 for some reason. I do have, and I read up into the first book, which I knew was going to be for the movie, the part that they cover, so I actually really enjoyed what I read of Dune, so I'm definitely keeping it, and I really want to read the rest of the series, which is tough because that's like a 9-book series. Again, there's so many series I want to read, but these are like the ones that get me so excited. So excited. Oh, literally one of my favorite sci-fis of last year was This Is How You Lose the Time War, and I know I just said I don't like books that are open-ended, and this one is very open-ended for a lot of how this science works and how this time war happens, but because the plot isn't the focus point, it's the love story between these rivals, I bypassed all of how they were doing these crazy time war stuff and just was like captivated by the love story, but then immediately also thrown off by, you're a bird now, you're an old woman now, you're where now, and there's just a lot of fun elements to this romance, and it's a fast read, but it definitely feels that, you know, that dense sci-fi where you're like, what is going on? But at the same time, I'm rooting for you two. I hope you guys make it. It's a story between 2 rival lovers, question mark. An adult fantasy that I like is Year of the Witching? Yeah, Year of the Witching. This was a 4 star read. I definitely want to check out her next book. I don't know if it's going to be a series or just a companion novel, but this was a very fun read. Definitely, I think, adjacent to the Black Witch Chronicles or the Gilded Ones, where it talks about like this false religion. I love when books talk about that. Okay, I think I'm gonna go into the unread adult fantasy that I have. These are obviously all the books that I'm keeping. I will go through all the books that I'm not keeping either later in this video or in the next video because I don't want this to be too terribly long, and I feel like this is already getting too terribly long. La, 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 la. Okay, some adult fantasy series. I have Jade City. I read 200 pages of it and kind of accidentally DNF'd it, which I will hopefully go back to because I know a lot of people love it. I think I'll love it too. I have Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I think this was recommended to me to start the Brandon Sanderson craze with, so I will try it, but I definitely need to not buy anything of his because he has so many books and I have so many books to read that I have no reason to start that series. And then I also have 1984, which I have not read. I do definitely want to read it. I can't believe I haven't. I know, it's crazy. We have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Such a talked about book. Haven't read it. I will keep it and figure out if I like it. I have 2 fantasies. I have Genesis, which I'm only keeping because my family, all of them read it, and I somehow have not read it and haven't been spoiled for it, and they all loved it, so I'm like, I guess I have to read it and have to figure out if I love it. It is, I got it in a library sale, so I gotta try and figure out how to take off the plastic. The other fantasy, this one is so cute. It's Yume by a Ghanaian Canadian author. I have a book from Octavia Butler, The Parable of Sorrow. I have a Star Wars collection, which is just a cute mass market paperback that I just love the illustration of. And it's it's the original trilogy, so I haven't read it yet, but I definitely really want to read it and then rewatch the first trilogy again because it just sounds like a fun time. And another series that I really want to read, the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. Ooh, how amazing. I'm in love. Fantasy is so dark though, so I do want my rainbow back immediately. The only shelf that I really like is this, so I feel like in my next place, if I end up moving soon, I hope I'm moving soon to affordable housing. We'll see if I get approved. I will definitely want to do like a series shelf and like a rainbow shelf so I can keep all of my like top favorite books on the series shelf, like these and A Number of Ashes, and just have them all by each other and just this glorious gradient. And then the books that don't really look very good can go back to the rainbow. Adult books. Fave adult books on my bookshelves. I can speak English. Okay, Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, Black Girls Must Be Magic. A favorite adult contemporary of mine. This has definitely started me broaching more adult books. Definitely a top favorite adult fiction. The next one would be, this one's kind of predictable, Daisy Jones and the Six. So I didn't really enjoy Evelyn Hugo, but I, for some reason, like, fell into the story so hard. I'm not even a music person. I literally, if you ask me what my favorite genre of music, I can't give it to you. I don't listen to music. I like my quiet time. I like my me time. But for some reason, reading about these characters, I was like addicted to it. And I think it's just the way it's written. It's kind of like an interview style narrative. I forget like the formal word for that type of writing style, but it was so enjoyable. And that's also why I purchased Opal and Neve. I think that's how you say it. It's the final revival of Opal and Neve because it's similar in writing structure, so I'm hoping to like it even though it's about music, so hopefully I'll still enjoy it. But dang, I didn't even listen to the audiobook of this, and I need to reread it and listen to the audiobook of it because I've heard it's so amazing. But this was probably like one of the first adult books that I read without an audiobook that like I had to finish. I like had to finish it. I was so consumed by the plot and the characters, and it's definitely more character driven, so it took me by surprise. I was pleasantly surprised by this. These two books also really pleasantly surprised me. I have Queenie by Candace Carty-Williams, a really hard-hitting adult contemporary about a woman who is like sexualized and objectified often and doesn't like self-love properly and doesn't take care of herself and almost loses her job. And then we also have Open Water, which is, I know, a very popular new release. I really enjoyed how poetic this story was. It kind of reminds me of the poetry in like This Is How You Lose the Time War, where you're just reading about this really great romance, but then it hits hard when it talks about like, you know, Black Lives Matter and just the things that this gentleman is dealing with, and the love ends up not being the focal point, which was very interesting. I really liked how the story kind of came together to weave this image, and it's also just written super beautifully. Another adult book that I read and loved is Richard Wright's Native Son. I specifically like this one just because of the way it makes me think of racism, if that makes sense. Not necessarily a great story, we don't like murder, but I really like how it makes you think. I also have In Cold Blood. This is literally the first book I've like probably ever read and heavily annotated, and I had to read and annotate it for an AP class. But funny thing, so I literally annotated every single page with every single thought that I had, but I did not read the last, I don't know if you could see these last few pages. There's a time jump and I skipped it. I was like, how dare you, Truman Capote, I do not want a time jump. So one day I want to go back to this and reread it because reading it as an adult, it's gonna, I feel like, shake me to my core. We have A Little Life, and I love the person who said this in one of my reading sprints, where this is one of their favorite books, but it's one of their least recommended books. I highly agree with that sentiment. I enjoyed this book because I think it made me think a lot about life, my life especially as an artist, facing depression, eating disorders, just like self-harm, like all these things that I think a lot of artists tackle self-doubt in such profound ways. And it just made me think a lot about my life, obviously to the extreme saddest circumstance. Little Life is just like super hard hitting, and so that's why I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. But because it's fictional and it talks about art and your mind and it covers a lifespan of a person, I think it's very interesting to me personally. It has a lot of connections to me and my struggle. I have A Cowboy's Claim, which is this fun mass market paperback. I really love this fun read. And same with You Had Me at Hola. Just fun romances. Let me grab the other romances I've bought since then, thinking that it's gonna be my new favorite genre. Thinking I'm gonna be a romance girl, and then immediately being like, nah, actually just jokes. Not me literally having a bunch of adult romance that I don't know if I'll enjoy. So I have The Ties That Tether. I have Where the Rhythm Takes You. I got this arc eons ago. I got Honey Girl. I feel like I'm gonna like this one. I have The Romantic Agenda, which is about an aromantic or asexual character exploring romance. I have Black Liberation, which is all about the hashtag Black Lives Matter movement. I can speak. I have A Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela, and I have When They Call You a Terrorist, also about the Black Lives Matter movement and about the women who started it. I also have Walking in the Wind by John Lewis and Malcolm X. Oh, an adult fiction I love and stole from my high school, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. I have some Maya Angelou and James Baldwin that I have not read but I really want to read. Ooh, some adult fiction I really think I'm gonna love is The Water Dancer and Pachenko. I have read 50 pages of both of these and really enjoyed it. Randomly have a lot of classics that I think I'm gonna keep just because I do want to read them. I've heard they're epic, so I guess I'll give them a go. The Mount of Monte Cristo, Don Quixote, Animal Farm I have read. I don't know if I want to keep it. I'll probably keep it if I do enjoy 1984, just because it's so small and it didn't make me think about anything in a particularly new way. It was just an interesting book that I know everyone refers to. Oh, some adult fantasy and sci-fi I forgot to mention. I have Persephone Station and A Court of Thorns and Roses. I know I said that like non-enthusiastically. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna read it. I feel like it'd be a fun video or something, but there's just so much else to read. Like, I'm very excited for this. I'm kind of excited to see what the hype's about. That's what I'm excited for. Oh, I also have Pride and Prejudice, which I do want to read, but like only when I'm in the mood for it, so it's gonna take a bit. Okay, now I'm gonna get into my favorite YA contemporary, which is a genre that I really love, and though I'm not reading a lot of it lately, I still have such fun thoughts. And oh, there's one that I read recently that was so good. So I know it's not me, I just need to do a better job of picking out books. I have a stack with me right here. So I have I'll Give You the Sun by Jenny Nelson, one of the first ones I read and absolutely adored. I have A Very Large Expansive Sea by Tahada Mafi, also super freaking amazing. The Love and Lives of Roxana Ali. I have If I Tell You the Truth by Jasmine Kaur. I have Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. We're getting into like my literal favorite books. I have Dear Martin by Nick Stone, which is literally a favorite. I cannot live without her. Piecing Me Together, the very first book that made me feel seen. American Panda, have reread so many times. All the Things We Never Knew by Leora Tamani, also amazing, super awesome. I haven't reread it, really want to though. And then we have Geek-Orella by, what's her name? Ashley Poston. More favorite YA contemporary, How It Went Down. Dear Justice, a companion novel to Dear Martin, and Color Me In by Natasha Diaz. We also have the creme de la creme, Elizabeth Acevedo. I have Poetics and With the Fire and High. Literally, if my house was on fire, grabbing these two, that's all I need. Not me just quietly unhauling books without telling you about them. Some more, my whole other video, my next video will be about this pile. But I have these two faves, Somewhere Only We Know by Maureen Gu, and The Skin I'm In by Sharon G. Flake. Some other faves, Harbor Me by Jacqueline Woodson, a Christina Forrest book, Zyla and Kai, which is the recent YA contemporary I read, and just so absolutely adored that. I have more Christina Forrest. Ooh, definite fave YA contemporaries, Love Boat Taipei. Some other faves, The Fault in Our Stars. Definitely remember staying up and crying to that book. The Beginning of Everything, also remember crying to it so hard. Pride by Ibby's the Boy. Another Pride and Prejudice retelling, First and Then, that I really enjoyed. I have some Tiffany D. Jackson that I love, Monday's Not Coming, and Grown. These two are my favorite of hers. Some other absolute bangers, What Kind of Girl, which talks a lot about self-harm, bullying, domestic abuse, lots of that. So it's a tough book by, what was her name? Ashley Shemale. But absolutely adored it. Like, I feel like no one talks about this book, but it's so freaking amazing. And then I have my favorite Angie Thomas book, The Concrete Rose. I really adored that book. And then I have The Weight of Stars. These were great contemporaries. I think all three of these made me cry. Oh yeah. And then I have more Tekla Magoon, which I mentioned earlier, as she's a good YA contemporary author. I loved The Rock and the River, which is all about a boy growing up in a family where one of his brothers, or like his older brother, is a Black Panther and his dad's in the civil rights movement. So they have, you know, differing opinions about justice and how to overcome racism. Very interesting. So I have purchased since more of her books. I'm very excited to see Fire in the Streets, which is a companion novel to The Rock and the River, and Light It Up. I feel like these are going to be epic, and I'm so here for it. Some more favorites. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Oh, it's always going to be a favorite of mine. I am Kath. I feel like it's an annual reread, just like the Poet-X. And then I also have Perks of Being a Wallflower, also a book that immensely speaks to me. This is going to seem very random, but I have a manga of The Uglies, which I really enjoyed. I definitely want to actually keep purchasing the manga version of it or getting it digitally, because it was so good and I loved it. And I also have This Time Will Be Different, also an amazing YA contemporary. Okay, literal last few books. I have Cranked. I think this is the one Ellen Hopkins books I'm gonna hold on to for memories. I don't want to keep collecting her books because I don't read them anymore. But nostalgia makes me hold on to one, I guess. I have The Book Thief. Haven't read it. I'm gonna read it eventually. Not So Pure and Simple is a fun YA contemporary that I haven't read, but I hope to read soon. And then I have the big Narnia collection, which I think this is the specific book that my dad read to me when I was little, me and my siblings. So I want to reread it one day. We'll see if that actually happens. It feels like I did a lot of damage, but then at the same time it doesn't. Actually, you know what? Looking at the floor, it looks like I did a lot of damage. So let me give you another overview of the damage. Okay, so these are my absolute fave books, not including this top one, because most of those are nonfiction, video games, graphic novels. I don't want to go through those today, but I have like all my absolute favorite books on the shelf and a mix of unread books that I'm like excited for, but like don't know if I'm gonna absolutely love, but hoping to love. So here they are, and I went through every single one, so you should know all the titles. Basically, these are all my adult books, adult fantasy, then we go into YA fantasy, YA sci-fi, and then I have a lot of contemporary up here, and then I also have some mangas. I'm gonna hold on to them, the physical versions, but I think I'm gonna move digital for mangas, just because I like reading on my iPad. The illustrations are much larger, so if you can tell, there's nearly 4 empty shelves. So here, I'll pan to the unhaul pile. There's a lot, and there's probably like your favorite books staring back at you. Don't look. Don't look. Don't be mad at me. Basically, during this unhaul, I really wanted to make sure that I am reading for myself. I'm going to keep reading the series that I want to read, and I'm not going to hold on to books that I just think will be good because I heard everyone on the internet say so. So I'm going to focus on finishing the series that I love and diversifying my reading and finding out what I want to read. And I also have a little stack. I will show you my little stack of book haul books, which I don't think it will be my next video because I have to talk through all those unhaul books. So you can also tell most of these are literally adult fiction, except for these, well, adult fantasy, YA fantasy, adult fiction. But yeah, my reading taste is changing and I am so excited about it. I feel like this makes me so excited. I especially love this shelf, and I really want to get my book buying under control, where this is my bookshelf for like all of my shelves, that these are how I feel about all the books that I own, because that's the type of collection that I want. Just books that I'm literally like, oh my god, I want to reread that because it was so good. I know, a little weird, but like, we love that for me, right? If you made it to the end of this video, leave down below this emoji so I know you are the real MVP. I appreciate you so much. Part 2 will be coming soon about all the books I am getting rid of, which is a lot. I haven't counted them, so stay tuned for that. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. I also am going to have a book haul, just lots of fun content coming your way. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and let's go on to part 2 of the unhaul.